Hi, good evening, everyone. Today is April 9th, 2024. This is the Finance Committee meeting. It is 6:31. I'd like to call the meeting to order with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to
the flag of the United States of America and to the
republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible.
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law GLC 30A Section 20. And on March 29, 2023, Governor Healy signed a supplemental 2023 budget bill allowing remote meetings and hybrid meeting options for public bodies through March 31st, 2025. This meeting is being recorded. Well, hello again, everyone. It seems like we just were together not too long ago. Before we get started, I just want to thank everyone for the enormous amount of time that we've all put in to reviewing all the warrant articles. And I really appreciate all the conversations that everyone had, and every comment was so thoughtful. And I think however we voted doesn't matter, but we were respectful to each other. And we all articulated our views, and I really, really appreciate that. So I just want to thank you all for that.
Well,
I quite the year.
Chair, say that you can have conducted consistently really wonderful meetings, and some of them have been like herding cats, but you've done a great job, and I just want to.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. I didn't realize my video was off. So tonight, I think what I wanted to do should be really quick. The final thing that needs to be done is there's a letter that goes in front of the warrant, which is really a one-page kind of summary that probably not many people read. I wanted to pull last year's and kind of revise it. I almost think the letter is nearly identical to the state of affairs of what we talked about in last year's budget. And I'll be happy to send it after this meeting, that maybe we can just take a look at it. And if you want to get back to me with your comments directly, it's really a state of affairs of, we're in a structural deficit, budgets are limited, everything that we've been talking about. So the only thing last year we talked about, hey, we have an override coming. So this year that can get excluded, but I don't really have anything unique to say. So that letter comes from the Finance Committee. So, we all should kind of make sure what is said you feel comfortable with, but it should be pretty much the same as last year. So I'll forward that afterwards. And if anyone has any comments, then we can modify.
Karen, for those of us newbies, what's the intent of the letter? Is it to summarize how we voted? Is it to what's the intent of it?
Yeah, it's just it's really just describing the fiscal budget as a high level. Like, what is the fiscal state of Westport?
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess taking a look at that letter from last year.
You can, and if that would be helpful to look at. It's okay. Pretty generic. I can try.
Right, it's a high foot level. I get it. I get it. But I didn't know if we were conveying like how we voted in general, like what the feeling was how we voted on different articles, how we approached it. Right? How were the votes taken? What was the intent on every vote? So I'm not sure, but I'll take a look at the letter.
No, I can kind of highlight it really quick. So it's last year said Westport's been in operating in a chronic structural deficit. Expenses outpacing revenue is a structural deficit. The town has cut or limited its personnel while increasing responsibilities, postponed maintenance, cut back on services, failed to adopt necessary technology. The town has not maintained recommended levels of the stabilization funding, lacking available resources. The town has not addressed many of its long-term capital needs, including town properties and building needs and equipment. Then the next section is all major revenue components are not keeping up with the demands for town services. Property taxes are constrained by Proposition 2.5, and previous overrides have been unsuccessful. State aid, which is local aid, growth has been limited. Local receipts are tied to economic conditions, and Westport has limited ability to grow them. There are few sustainable new revenue sources, and the opportunities are limited. And the third section is required expenses and assessments are increasing. Westport faces growing demands to increase expenditures in all its municipal services. The town must comply with additional required unfunded state and federal mandates. Inflation increases the cost of goods and services and raises compensation levels in order to compete. The departments are lacking resources to continue vital services. There are not sufficient revenues to support these needed expenditures. Virtually every department in all of Westport's sector of general government, public safety, schools, public works and facilities, human services, culture and recreation are lacking the resources to adequately provide needed services to our town residents. The chronic deficit will continue in future years. As we look ahead, and this was last year, so as we look ahead to 2025, the fiscal outlook does not improve. In fact, the structural deficit grows each year. Revenue continues to be limited and expenses are increased. Expense increases are dictated by growth, inflation, and other mandates that outpace available funds. Both the town departments and school have growing demands and are further challenged with recent high inflation. This lack of funding means, in addition to deficiencies in the operating budget, the town must delay its routine maintenance and defer capital expenditures. The town is not able to address its long-term needs, such as addressing long-term liabilities and long-term property needs, nor able to fund the stabilization fund to recommended levels. The town continues to rely on free cash, which is one-time funds, to support and balance the operating budget. That's pretty much it.
Nothing's changed. We just changed the
No.
date.
Yeah.
It's
That's what I'm
deja
thinking.
vu all over again.
It's like
Other
ground.
than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
Yeah, it's exact. I mean, I don't know anything different to add. So
No.
I think what we said last year.
Only add that you did the 5-year plan and it doesn't look any better.
Yeah, we could add that. We could say that we're working with the select board to develop a 5-year capital and operating plan, and that's in the works. But that's a great addition to add.
Sorry, Mr. Lees, I didn't raise my hand.
No.
Go ahead. We're free for all now.
I just had a comment. It really wasn't anything necessarily to do with this letter, but one of the most confusing parts for people, general taxpayers in the town, and I've got to admit, it took me a while to get my head around it, is the impact of new growth and the long-term effect of Prop 2.5. You know, everybody looks at whether it is the economic development potential, if this passes on Route 6 or new houses on Sodom Road, whatever it might be. And people think that money is just additive to the overall budget on, you know, and it's not. We know that. We don't need to discuss that at length. But maybe
now that is that. That is new revenue for new construction.
it is, but
I mean,
then it gets cooked into the next year into the levy. So yes, it is additive. I don't disagree with you, but on the flip side, it's not like there's a $10 million Hampton Inn that is being, you know, put on the books, and it's a, you know, $500,000 assessment that is automatically going into, you know, the pot all the time.
it is. Al, I'm sorry to say it, but that example is not right. That it is the tax on new construction is new money. The increase in value is simply redistributes among different people.
All
But
right.
new construction is new money in addition to the prior, so it doesn't, 2.5% doesn't apply.
I misspoke, but overall, when it comes down to the overall revenue to the town does not increase. It gets redistributed and
No, that, it does increase. That is the exception. It does increase with new construction. Period.
If you build a $10 million Hampton Inn, we
Yep.
get to add the tax value of that Hampton Inn.
Right.
That valuation, the value of that gets to be added to the tax rolls to increase the levy based on that additional $10 million.
Right.
So you do get,
we still cannot increase.
yeah, no, we get to increase the tax. So if we had a levy of $50 million,
Yeah,
we added that, and the tax on that particular piece of property was $100,000. Our new levy is $10,100,000 because
Right.
it's new construction. The following year, we start with
That's-
$10,100,000. So then it becomes additive, and you can compound on that new growth.
Right.
and
So it's not a one-shot deal.
but it does get redistributed throughout the town.
Oh, it just adds to
As
it.
well as all the taxes do, yeah.
But it does.
Well, what I mean,
Potentially it adds
taxes alone.
expenses in terms of housing and so forth. The revenue, same thing. With a bunch of residential houses, they're new, they add new revenue, but they bring with them additional expenses for servicing those taxpayers. But that's on the other side. That's the expense side, doesn't affect what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
the only thing that increases the levy is either an override, a permanent override, or new growth. I mean, a growth. That's it.
Right.
So which leads me to, so last year I had done a 28-page memo that went through various aspects, and I don't have any ability and time to do that again this year. And that kind of led into kind of providing some information to the general public in advance. And then I did a PowerPoint presentation. So I was talking to Steve Forrest today, and I said, I'm not really sure if I want to do a presentation. I'm not sure what
Mhm.
anything new that we have to say, but could be new people in the audience that haven't been there before. So I can do a very small presentation that really focuses on some of the key things. And maybe one of those is just explaining how the property tax works. I had that scheduled that I can add in there. I think,
I also think the explanation of Al's favorite term, free cash.
yeah,
I think that would just be a very, basic primer on how free cash is created. It's like retained earnings, on a balance sheet. It's that excess cash or net income, so to speak, that gets carried over from the following year. And it's like that, and it's like spending your savings account.
Yeah, I think Cindy is right, that also, we all know that the term is misleading. It's free cash.
Right.
I found it on the sidewalk when I walked into town meeting. No, but it's, as she was explaining, I think that's useful, because that's one of the things I think people understand the least.
Yeah, and I think Karen, last year it needed to be a little bit more elaborate because we were talking about an override. We were talking about
Right.
Right.
this year I think
Right.
just a refresher
Right.
or whatever you want to.
Yeah,
Yep.
agreed.
yeah, I agree too, because the last 2 years, I really did those memos really
Yeah.
to prime everyone to understand the desperate situation that we're in. So I think a very small few slides, I agree, free
Yes.
cash, and then a slide that will show how we're looking to use the free cash in all the warrant articles. So we can show, adding 100,000 here and that, so we can do that sort of slide. So
And I would borrow a lot from, the state as to how they explain some of these things.
Yep.
I don't think you have to be necessarily, individually creative and work too hard on your brain matter on this. I mean, I
oh
think
no,
you
I
can
already
lift.
explained it in last
Right.
year's presentation, so
Right.
it's already
Good.
there. So
All
I
right,
can
good.
take last year's and just kind of scale it down to 3 or 4 slides. So,
I think also emphasizing that free cash shows up each year and there's no it's been a consistency, but that's somewhat misleading because it depends upon what's happened in the prior year, and there's no way to control it, A, or B, really to predict it other than past practice.
Right,
And not a guarantee of future results.
right, right. Okay, so I'll work on a little mini PowerPoint presentation for town meeting, that night of town meeting. The one other thing that if we want to do, we could have an informational meeting like this, say a week before town meeting, that we invite the public to come. Do you want to come and ask questions about the budget a week before town meeting, and we can be here to answer questions? That's another option. It doesn't need to be a full committee. It could be.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Oh,
Nobody
sorry.
shows up.
I think it would probably be more advantageous to have the slides continually run on Westport TV,
That's a good idea.
maybe. And so we don't have to really invite the public. They can, at their leisure, maybe watch it.
Right. I did do that also one year. I took that same PowerPoint presentation and then I narrated it, and then shot it over to TV so that it can screen. I'm not really sure I'm going to have really time to do that in advance.
I remember we did it one time at the high school, and I think there was only like a handful of people that showed up.
Yeah.
If that,
Yeah. Well, you're right, Gary. It was a colossal,
Yes.
unfortunate, but with today's, modern remote meeting like this, there might be people that tune in for a half an hour to ask a question rather than come to,
Yeah.
a physical space on Saturday morning and all of that.
Do we have a Facebook? I mean, not that I'm promoting Facebook, but I mean Facebook or the town website. Can we put stuff on there?
Yeah, I think if we decided to do an info, we could definitely put it on the town's website. I'm sure we could either send a letter to the editor, or I'm sure the Shorelines would be happy to post, a little article for us to say, hey, the finance committee wants to hear from, if you have questions. I'm sure we can get it out in the paper, and I'm sure we can get it on the town's website. And we can promote it on social media also if we wanted to do that.
putting it on the website, fine, but I think that the response that we've ever gotten from any of these efforts to educate has been at least 2% and maybe 0. So I really don't think it's worth the effort to do all the things that are well intended. I know, but I don't really think it has any return.
I mean, we're in a kind of a status quo mode here. I mean, it's really, what do we do between now and the next fiscal year,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to say, Karen, I thought your responses on Facebook to the various websites that are following what we're doing and following the town were really informational, and I thought you really struck a leadership pose, and the more we can do that type of stuff, I think will help the town overall.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to respond and not with any opinion, just trying to help try to keep people on a factual nature. But I'd be willing to, a week before town meeting, to do it. Again, it doesn't need to be a full committee. If a few folks wanted to do it, it may, if nobody shows up in 10 minutes, then it's over pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't feel the need to prepare any material. So the warrant will already be posted and out. So everyone should and could have access to it. The budget's going to be printed in there so everyone can see it. So it would really be if someone had some questions.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people do, because they're not here right now either, where
That's
they
part of my
have,
point.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Karen, I'm going to interject here. I agree with you. I think that what we're doing is preaching to the same probably 20 people that loop around, and they've already got their minds made up. And I'm not sure that it is a good use of your time and your energy, however limited, it is to do this. When all's said and done, and I monitor Facebook all the time. Sometimes I throw a bomb, sometimes I respond. And it's the same 10 or 15 people that are always, speaking. Not that they shouldn't be speaking, but they've already got their information from a variety of different sources, or at least they think they have. So I kind of echo Hugh's comment and Duncan's, in the sense that you've been very thoughtful in doing what you're doing, but I'm just not sure that the additive effect of having a meeting and doing PowerPoint and everything else is going to move the needle.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
very hard to engage people. That's the issue.
Well, I think along those same lines, following what Al was saying, it does seem to be, a regular group of people, just by virtue of invitation. If they follow these meetings and they watch the recordings of this on YouTube, I kind of track this. Our numbers go up and down, anywhere from, maybe 19 or so people that have viewed it. And maybe that's me watching it 3 times because I wanted to catch something and I had to stop and I had to go back to it again, or whatever.
Well, I watch it 4 times, so that's probably the whole
Yes.
committee.
So, so the numbers vary anywhere from, 19 to maybe 35. So, just by virtue of invitation here, that if there are things that people, want to know about, that feel that they don't have the information, reach out. I mean, give them, the FinCom email address if they wanted to send an email to us to ask some questions. If we get questions, we're happy to answer them. I mean, we've never denied anyone access. It's always hard to know who's out there and who's listening and what they want to know. We're not mind readers. So
Yeah,
we're here
you're right.
every Tuesday, and we rarely get live visitors that come and watch us, but some people do watch the recording of it. But our meeting has always been open, and no one ever shows. So, if you posted a meeting saying, come and ask questions, I'm not sure that anyone would show either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I watch other committee meetings, and a lot of times they reference the finance committee. So there are people that watch, whether
Right.
or not they go and comment. I mean, that's another thing. But they, if you watch this last select board meeting, there was a gentleman that stood up and said he heard us talk about the project, the sewer project, water sewer project, and he gets a lot of information from the finance committee. So even though they don't directly talk to us, they do listen. I think they are
Right.
watching the meetings, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Along those same veins, I told Karen today that in the course of my travels over the last week, I was impressed and quite frankly surprised the amount of I'll use a common phrase, street cred the finance committee has gotten over the last week based on our vote and the very public display of that was posted by Shorelines. Which was fine. I don't have any problem with it. I didn't vote with the majority, and I'll stand by that. And I have no issue with that at all. But I was very impressed. I mean, even today, speaking with a woman who I was making an appointment to get our septic system, emptied, right? And so then she starts talking about the whole Route 6 thing. She did not know I was a member of the finance committee, and she starts talking. She said, "Oh, well, if the finance committee, has questions about it, then I certainly seriously will think twice about the." So, and I was getting that in different places in various conversations. So, I think that we have
But
to
that's a good thing,
understand.
though.
I think we have to understand that we do carry that credibility, and it's important, and people do pay attention to what we say. They may not come to our meetings directly, but I think they do pay attention to our opinions and the process that we go through. And that's important because, like I said, I was very impressed over the past week how many people referenced the work that the finance did and our vote that we took last week. So
Yeah, I think it's important too that we stay independent from what other committees and other individuals may want us to feel or want us to speak. I think that we stay independent as much as we can, and I think that's what the residents expect.
Right. So just whoever might be watching or listening to this meeting. So if anybody has any questions and wants to reach the finance committee, they're on the town's website. You can go to the finance committee's page, and there's a little section there that says send us an email. or the email is fincom@westport.mass.com is our email address. And then you can send that, and that will actually get forwarded to every member of our committee all at once. So that's how someone can reach us if they need to. And certainly if they can't find that, they can certainly call town hall and somebody will point them in the direction to get in touch with us. So if somebody has a question about something, I'm happy to help try to answer it as best I can. So people can reach out that way too.
Karen, if you don't mind, after we finish this meeting, what I might do is, if with approval from the board, is to put what you just said on Facebook with the link so that it's, easier for people, whether it's westportmass.gov or, give them your home address so they can,
Yeah, absolutely. And FinCom has a Facebook page, so I can post that on there too. And then
great.
everyone can share it too. So just so, if somebody needs to reach out, they certainly can ask questions. It doesn't need to just be in this meeting. So
Great.
especially since we may not be really having any more from now until then. I don't think we need to have another meeting, right? Between now and town meeting. It feels so
Right.
odd to me, but
No more. No more Tuesday nights.
Aaron, my only suggestion would be, historically, have posted one before the town meeting.
Right, right.
Just in case,
right.
and then we can always cancel
Yeah.
it.
Right. Yes. So normally for those that are new here, you're absolutely right, Hugh. We always meet, is it a half hour or an hour before town meeting?
Yeah,
Half hour
half
before town meeting. In case something comes up and in case there's something that we need to discuss or change, we want to just touch base. And just to remind everyone, again, some of you are new. So Steve Forrs always encourages the finance committee to help speak at town meetings. So the position that the finance committee has taken, we should be able to defend and why we voted the way that we did. And so, there certainly are some articles that were not unanimous. And if we're going to represent the finance committee, and if we're going to go up to the mic and discuss it, we would be discussing the finance committee's recommendations. Certainly anybody who can go up as a resident, any one of us can go up as a resident. So if you have an opposing position to what the finance committee took, the only recommendation is to disclose, hello, I'm on the finance committee, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the finance committee. I'm speaking as me as a resident, and then say whatever you want. So anybody can do any of that. But in terms of, Cindy and I are going to be up on the table, so we both have mics. It's not always easy. Steve doesn't see us. Sometimes I'm trying to flag him to get in queue, but he doesn't even necessarily know that we're trying to get in queue. So
Remember,
anybody can go up.
Karen, remember, you're behind him.
Yeah.
Hard for him to see. You have to make noise or drop something.
Right. I have gone, Steve, and then he's looking around the whole room.
Right.
But again, and it's important for residents to hear from someone else, not just from myself or Cindy. So everyone has a perspective. So feel free to, if questions come up, feel free to make yourself available if you can. So that's all I have to say on town meeting. So we do need to review and approve our minutes, would be helpful. And these 2 minutes so does anyone have anything else before I move on town meeting or any questions or? Okay.
I would advise getting there early because I think there's going to be a big crowd at this town meeting, I would suspect. But so if you want a place to park, get there early.
And bring a gallon of coffee with you. All right. So the sets of we have 3 sets of minutes to approve. I just want to make sure in the back is the chart of what we think everyone's votes for. I want to make sure everyone has reviewed their own and you're comfortable, because it was really hard to be part of the meeting and take the notes, and hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at your own votes and that everything's okay. So hopefully everyone did that and we did a good job with that. So I can, what minutes, can someone help me with the dates of the minutes that we have to do tonight? We had March 26th, we had April 2nd, which was last week. We had March 26th, and we had an earlier date,
It was the 19th.
March 19th. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mhm.
Do anyone want to make a motion for the 19th?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on those at all? Okay, roll call. Al?
Yeah, I'm mute.
Al Lee's aye.
Thank you.
Cindy Brown, aye.
Duncan?
Duncan, you're on mute.
Duncan Law, aye.
Thank you. Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Michelle?
Michelle Orlando, I.
Gary?
Gary, yes.
And Karen Rouse, aye. Thank you. All right, so now we have the meetings of March 26th, and that was our first set of recommendations for the easier articles, right? So that, any motion on to accept?
Make a
them?
motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussions? All right, Al?
Al Lee's aye.
Cindy?
Cindy Brown, aye.
Duncan?
Duncan Law, aye.
Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Michelle?
Michelle Orlando, I.
Gary?
Gary, yes.
Thank you, and Karen Rouse, aye. All right, the last set of minutes that we have is the April 2nd minutes, and again, the chart is in there as well, which is cumulative for all our minutes, all our recommendations. So any discussion?
Karen, did you address, one of the members had questioned the vote, and the recording cut off at that vote. Were we able to recapture that?
What vote was that?
I believe it was Al wasn't sure that his vote was recorded correctly on, was it article like 42 or 43, something like that? And when you go back and listen to the recording, it stops just before that.
Oh, well, Al probably remembers what his vote was, right?
Right. So we had it on the chart incorrectly.
And then,
And you were going to have Jess check to see, or you sent an email actually to Valerie to see if it could be fixed.
Well, I'll weigh in, and I wasn't necessarily questioning my vote. It was questioning, it was late in the game.
Right.
And on and on. But what I would like to say, if we can modify, is that I will defer to the majority of that, because I can't after 2+ weeks prior to I can't remember what my vote might have been. It
right.
was
So I think we were talking about Article 43 and 44. And so
Right.
I think the 3 people that voted the same on the nays is what I have in this chart, Al. So I have you for Article 43 and 44 was a nay and a nay.
refresh my memory on Article 43 and 44 if you
No,
if you
so
don't mind.
43, I believe, was the special education establishing.
No.
Right.
Those are zone.
Am I off?
I think those are the zoning articles, aren't they? No?
No,
No,
I think
43.
that's
No,
not
you're
right.
right. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. You're right.
That's okay. Article 43 was to establish the special
think that this-
education fund, and then the next article was to move some funds from a previous article to fund the special.
to a capital expenditure, and I think at the time, if I remember correctly, my thought was we can't find money to support the regular capital, the stabilization fund or whatever. So how are we going to find money to continue to fund this? I don't have a particular issue at all with the concept of it, but I'm not sure that I have, enough information to figure out how we're going to do this on a long-term basis. So
It's okay. So we're just confirming whatever vote you said. We just want to confirm what it was.
I'm just going to stick with whatever I
Okay.
did at the time.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Harry, you remind me, we were not sure about the authority. And I think we asked about it. Don't remember ever getting an answer.
Right.
Correct. I have since, during the course of the week, I asked the town accountant, and she's had, because you'll remember Nicole left
Right.
the meeting before we talked about this. And I had some other personnel board issues to talk with her about, and I asked her about that. And she said that she was going to check with the town administrator. I then did talk with Jim on another matter before he left. He's away this week. And he said that he thought that it was fine, that he thought that KP Law signed off on all of it, but he would certainly double check with them. But now he's away this week, so we don't have an answer is the
Okay.
short answer. We don't have an answer.
Okay. Well, that would be if something changed, we could make them on the floor. We would change our
Right.
motion if we come to that. So,
So that's
Okay,
right. We're
so-
doing the votes because we don't know what we're doing.
right. So the minutes seem okay. What will get printed in the warrant is really going to be our votes 9-0, or it doesn't list who voted what.
Right.
It just lists the names, but the minutes will reflect everything. So if everyone's okay with the minutes here in the chart, then I would entertain a motion to,
So moved.
So moved. Second.
thank you so much. I lost you guys. Sorry.
We're still here.
I know my screen's not. I'll find you. 1 second. Cindy, do you want to do the roll call while I seem to be
Sure.
lost in space?
Absolutely.
you.
Elise,
Ellie's aye.
I'm going to go based on who I can see here right now. Duncan Law,
Duncan Law, aye.
Michelle Orlando,
Michelle Orlando, I.
Hugh Morton,
You weren't I.
Gary Carrero,
Yes.
Karen Russ,
Aye, thank you.
Cindy Brown, I. Thank you.
Okay, so I do have something to discuss that comes up in less than 48 hours notice. And we just received an open meeting law violation today. And oops, I'm calling up the wrong thing. So that's been circulated to everyone. I will be happy to speak with Jim Hartnett to look for some direction on how to answer some of those questions that were on
I think
there.
that's a good idea, Karen.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I agree with that. I also suggest after that, that a letter to the Attorney General acknowledging we've received it, but in essence, reminding them that this is a very inconsequential claim. Is that something we can do to not have to waste time dealing with it? It's in their jurisdiction.
great.
I think I don't want to overstate this, but this is just nitpicking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay, so thank you. So I'm trying to, so after I read the open meeting law violation and then I reread our minutes, there was just we could use just a slight more clarity in our minutes, and I'm trying to get it called up on the screen so that we can review my edits and potentially reapprove them. And, all right.
Karen, all you're doing that is to me say, this is not a judicial proceeding. There is such a thing as a vexatious litigant, which is a court's way of saying, we've had enough of this person. And we're not going to, you can't file anything more. We're not going to pay any attention to you. Now, this guy does not rise to that level, but the Attorney General can certainly do that sort of thing. We understand where this is coming from.
Great, thank you, Hugh. So some of the comment that was made, and we don't need to belabor the comment here, but was that it made it appear that we were having a department meeting with the school and we didn't post that on our agenda. And so when I reread our minutes, what we should have said in the minutes and what I have highlighted in yellow. So these are the minutes that have already been approved, and I'm asking for us to consider the edits right now and then reapprove these minutes. So what we didn't say was item 1 was department meetings NA. So we should be clear that we did not hold a department budget meeting with the school on March 12th. What we did was we met with the select board chair and Jim Hartnett to review the select board's fiscal 25 budget. And the items that we were discussing were particularly the school budget and the town engineer. So we weren't having budget meetings.
Did our agenda reflect that we were meeting with the select board?
Our agenda reflected fiscal 25 budget discussions,
Okay,
which that, and we didn't meet with the select board as a whole, so we met with a representative of that. So, so these are the edits that I have. So again, we recapped where we stood with the school budget. This was not new information that we were discussing the first time. This was a recap. So I wanted to add to the minutes that it's a recap from previous meetings. And Nancy Stanton Cross, the school committee chair, did attend the meeting. She attended on her own accord. It wasn't a scheduled budget meeting with the school committee where they came in and did a presentation. So Nancy was in the meeting, made some comments, and we noted that in the minutes. So I'm hoping if we can add this in, just to clarify that we did not hold a school committee budget meeting on March 12th. And that might help some clarification.
Let's just move to approve.
Okay, I would appreciate that.
you know, I think,
So moved.
I think it's interesting. So to discuss those edits, I mean, I think one of the items that was brought up in the complaint was that, we had a discussion about the town engineer position. It was the town administrator that brought it up. I mean, we have no control over items that are discussion with the overall budget. We don't know what he was going to talk about. He could have been talking about, changing the manager at the transfer station. I mean, we would have no way of knowing what types of things in advance they would want to discuss. So the entity that filed the complaint on this issue cited that one thing that we discussed the town engineer and that people would have been interested perhaps in knowing that in advance. We didn't know that in advance necessarily because it according to the minutes there, the town administrator, discussed that. So anyway, I mean, it's always hard for us to know what's going to be asked of us or what someone wants to discuss. So we can't do it in advance.
We didn't have department presentations, but we did have on our posting that we're discussing the fiscal 25 budget, and that could be anything. That could be revenue, that could be anything. And so, our conversations were, I believe, appropriate on the posting. Our minutes might have been a little confusing to make it seem like we were holding a meeting. So did someone second the motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll do that.
All right. Any other discussion? If not, we will reapprove the minutes of March 12th. With those edits in yellow.
As amended, yes.
Thank you. Al?
Al Lees, aye.
Cindy
Brown, aye.
Duncan?
Duncan Law, aye.
Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Michelle?
Karen, I wasn't at that meeting. I should abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Gary?
Yes.
Thank you. And Karen Rouse, aye. Thank you. All right, I don't think we got anything else, right? So next meeting is our town meeting, half an hour before. So that is, what's the date on that? I should know that.
May 7, I believe.
May
It's
7.
May 7.
All right.
Karen, I would suggest that maybe that clarification you've been talking about goes into the letter to the Attorney General when it goes. Because that's part of
Absolutely.
saying that this is a waste of everybody's time.
We'll definitely put that in, and I might reach out to Hugh with some guidance. So I appreciate it if you're available.
Yeah, I would because, you know, I hate to use the word, but I will because I'm probably going to get chastised for it. It borders on harassment at this point in time, in my opinion. There's an individual that has nothing but time on his or her hands that is nitpicking insignificant things that are happening not only in Westport, but I'm guessing in some other towns. So I just think we have bigger fish to fry than to you know, be responding all the time to these letters, innuendos, and everything else.
And I think you raise an extra very good point that I hadn't thought of. And that is, this guy is harassing a lot of people. It isn't just us. And from the Attorney General standpoint, it's not helping his constituency, i.e. the towns, getting their work done efficiently.
Right.
Not
To
just
watch
us.
it, they use the term, they were watchdog operations. So they nitpick at things, but he finds, or that firm finds correct things to nitpick at. I mean, they're not incorrect. I mean,
No,
we
but
don't,
it's significant is the difference.
correct.
Nitpicking is useless.
Oh, yeah, let's end this. Well, I just want to say, whatever we do, I try to be the most transparent person in the world. And so if there's an opportunity to make sure our postings are more applicable and in accordance, even if it's above and beyond what's necessary, I'm happy to do that. So happy to make sure the minutes are clear. Whatever we need to do, we need to stay transparent, which we are. That means making a couple of edits. That's
I
good.
applaud you for that, Karen.
Yeah.
But we don't want to have to do twice the work to appease someone who is not raising anything of any
Sure.
importance to anybody. So that's the
Sure.
other side of it.
No, appreciate that. Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
you're the perfect person for the job, Karen.
You
You do it well.
I agree.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's
Okay.
My instinct
Come
from years of practice is never tell anybody anything
Sure.
because it's all confidential. The other end of the spectrum.
All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn so that we can enjoy the rest of the day.
Please do.
Second,
Second,
Second.
Thank you. All right, Al,
Al Lee's eye, of course.
Cindy,
Cindy Brown, aye.
Duncan,
Duncan Law, aye.
you,
You weren't I.
Michelle,
Michelle Orlando, I.
Gary,
Yes.
and Karen Ross, aye. Thank you, everyone.